Hey everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be looking at the world of personal finance.
Oh, yeah.
And let's be honest, it can be a pretty complicated world.
Yeah, for sure.
We're going to zero in on this question that I think a lot of people have and struggle with. When do you stop paying your creditors?
It's a tough one.
It is a tough one. Luckily, we've got this book by Peter Francis Jurisi,
Yeah.
the complete book on bankruptcy to help us kind of break it all down.
Yeah. Great book. It's a really loaded question.
Yeah.
A lot of people, I think, assume that the answer is like simple,
Right.
but Juracy does a good job of pointing out that there's a lot of factors that you really have to consider.
Before we go any further, I do want to make a quick note that everything we're talking about today is just for informational purposes.
Right.
It's not legal advice.
Of course.
Always want to chat with a qualified attorney.
Absolutely.
If you're looking for guidance that's personalized for your situation.
Yeah. Every financial situation is totally unique. And what works for one person won't necessarily work for another person.
Okay, so let's say you're staring at a mountain of debt.
Okay.
What's the first thing that comes to mind?
Pay it off. No, I'm just kidding.
Right.
I think a lot of people, their first thought is stop paying everything.
Stop paying everything right.
Just stop. But, Juracy, he cautions against that.
Really?
Yeah, he argues that sometimes abruptly stopping all your payments can actually do more harm than good,
Oh.
especially if you haven't really taken a look at all of your options.
So he really dives into the differences between Chapter 7 and Chapter 13 bankruptcy,
Yeah.
which, I'll be honest, has always seemed a little bit confusing to me.
Yeah, just
Can you break those down for us?
Absolutely. So Chapter 7 is often called liquidation bankruptcy.
Okay.
Essentially, it means that some of your assets might be sold off to pay off your debts.
Hmm.
But, Juracy is very clear that you don't lose everything.
Okay.
There are certain assets, like your retirement funds, that are often protected.
Gotcha.
Chapter 13, on the other hand, that focuses on what's called restructuring your payments.
Hmm.
So you would work out a plan to pay back your debts over time.
Okay, so Chapter 7 is more about wiping the slate clean.
Right.
And then Chapter 13 is more about getting back on track with some kind of a structured payment plan.
Yeah, you got it. That's a good way to think about it.
Okay.
And actually, a lot of people think that Chapter 13 is kind of the easier option.
Oh, really?
But Juracy actually argues that that's not necessarily the case.
Huh.
Sometimes Chapter 7, even though it might involve, getting rid of some of your possessions,
Yeah.
might actually be a better choice for getting like a truly fresh start.
That's a really good point.
Yeah.
I think I've always thought about it. It's like
One's easier.
Chapter 7's the scarier one.
Yeah.
But you're saying that's not necessarily the case?
Not necessarily. It all just depends on your financial situation and what your goals are.
So, for example, someone who's maybe facing foreclosure might choose Chapter 13
Exactly.
to try to save their house.
Exactly.
Then there's this concept of secured and unsecured debt.
Yeah.
Now, I know the basic difference.
Okay.
A mortgage is secured by your house, but like a credit card isn't tied to a specific asset.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how this plays into deciding when to stop paying certain creditors.
That's a great question. And actually, Juracy highlights this in the book.
Oh, does he?
He suggests that while you never want to stop paying like any of your debts without really thinking it through,
Okay.
there are situations where it might make sense to prioritize those secured debts over the unsecured debts if you're in a tight spot.
Okay, so if you absolutely can't make all of your payments,
Yeah,
focus on keeping your house, for instance.
exactly.
Could be the priority.
That could be the priority. And of course, this is really where talking to an expert is important.
Right.
Because they can help you to analyze your specific situation and weigh those potential consequences.
He also talks about these non-dischargeable debts,
Yeah.
which honestly just sound terrifying to me.
Yeah, they can be pretty heavy. These are debts that even if you file for bankruptcy, they don't go away.
Ugh.
So you're still responsible for them.
Like what?
Like alimony, child support,
Oh?
most student loans. Those are some of the most common examples.
So no matter what, if you file for Chapter 7 or Chapter 13, you're still on the hook for those.
That's right.
Ugh, that's really good to know.
Yeah, and this is another reason why Juracy is such a big proponent of getting that legal counsel.
Hmm.
You really need to understand which debts fall into this category before you make any decisions about your finances.
And actually, he really strongly recommends reaching out to Juracy Law
Of course, yeah.
for that counsel. And what I think is really cool is they offer these free consultations,
Absolutely, yeah.
which I think is just incredibly helpful.
It can be so helpful because, when you're dealing with something as complex as bankruptcy,
Yeah.
You just want to make sure that you're getting the right advice.
You want to be able to talk to somebody.
Yeah, and not feel pressured.
And not feel pressured, right?
Yeah,
To anything.
especially, financially. So, jury C law really understands that.
Yeah.
And that every person's situation is different.
Well, he even shares a story in the book about Lou and Wendy.
Oh, yeah, I love that story.
It's this couple that are struggling with a car loan. They've got credit card debt.
Yeah.
And they owe back taxes to the IRS.
Classic.
It feels very relatable.
Yeah, I think, their story really illustrates how overwhelming it can feel when you're juggling all these different debts.
Right.
And what's really compelling is how the book uses their experience to illustrate the potential benefits of Chapter 13. In a situation like theirs, it might allow them to actually keep their car while also consolidating those debts into a more manageable payment plan.
Oh, wow. That's great.
Yeah, it's really cool.
So it really just shows the power of having that structured approach
Absolutely.
to repayment.
Yeah, and Juracy really emphasizes that, just because you're facing financial challenges, it doesn't mean that you're out of options.
Right.
There are things that you can do.
So for our listeners out there, what would you say are some of the biggest takeaways? What do we want them to walk away understanding?
I would say the first and most important thing is if you're feeling overwhelmed by debt, don't panic.
Don't panic.
Don't make any rash decisions.
Right.
Take a deep breath and really try to understand your debt situation.
Okay.
The specifics of it.
So knowing the differences between like secured and unsecured.
Exactly.
Or knowing what a non-dischargeable debt is.
Exactly. All of that is going to be extremely helpful for
Yeah.
making those tough decisions.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And of course, seeking guidance from a qualified professional like a financial advisor or an attorney essential.
Absolutely. Don't try to figure this out on your own.
No, you don't have to. There are people out there who are ready to help you.
It's so easy to feel lost and alone when you're facing financial struggles.
For sure.
But there are resources
Definitely.
that are out there that can help you find your way back.
Exactly. And speaking of resources,
Yeah.
Juracy Law is a fantastic place to start.
Yeah.
They offer a wealth of information,
Right.
support,
Yeah.
and those free consultations are a really great way to get personalized advice that is tailored to your specific circumstances.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So we've talked about the different types of bankruptcy,
Yeah.
but I'd love to maybe dig a little deeper into Chapter 7 specifically.
Okay. Yeah.
What are some of the things that people should know if they're considering that option?
Yeah. So, as we mentioned before, Chapter 7 is often referred to as liquidation bankruptcy.
Right.
And so basically a court-appointed trustee comes in, assesses all of your assets,
Okay.
and determines, which ones can be sold off to pay off those creditors.
So it's not necessarily a situation where you just lose everything you own.
Not at all.
There are protections.
There are.
Exactly.
There are what are called exemptions for certain assets, like
Yeah.
your primary residence or
Okay.
vehicle up to a certain value.
Hmm.
And those exemptions do vary from state to state.
Oh, okay.
So it's really important to understand the specific rules wherever you live.
So you might be able to keep your house and your car, even if you file for Chapter 7.
You might. Again, that's another reason why it's so important to get that expert legal advice.
Right.
An attorney can really help you understand what assets are exempt in your state
Yeah.
and make sure that you are taking full advantage of those protections.
I know that some people maybe hesitate to file for Chapter 7 because they're worried about losing, valuable possessions or things like that.
Yeah.
But Juracy makes a really interesting point in the book.
Is it?
He argues that sometimes the emotional burden of the debt
Yeah.
can actually outweigh the value of, the material things.
I think that's such an important perspective.
Yeah.
We often attach sentimental value to our possessions.
Yeah, for sure.
But when you're struggling to make ends meet,
Yeah.
the weight of that debt can be incredibly stressful.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And sometimes letting go of those things can be incredibly liberating.
Yeah.
And it allows you to really focus on rebuilding that financial future.
It's like that saying, you can't take it with you.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's more important to prioritize your mental and emotional well-being.
Absolutely. Your health.
Yeah.
Your family.
Right.
And actually, the book is full of stories.
Oh, really?
Of people who have gone through bankruptcy
Yeah.
and come out the other side feeling this sense of relief and renewed hope.
Wow.
Yeah, it's really inspiring.
Yeah, so it's a good reminder that bankruptcy is not a failure.
Not at all.
It's a legal process that's designed to help you.
Yeah.
Get a fresh start.
It's about taking control of your finances
Right.
and really creating that path toward a brighter future.
Okay, so we talked about Chapter 7.
Yes.
Let's shift gears to Chapter 13.
Okay.
So this is where you create a repayment plan, right?
Right. So Chapter 13 is often referred to as a reorganization bankruptcy.
Okay.
Instead of liquidating your assets, you're actually proposing a plan to the court
Okay.
that outlines how you will repay those debts over a period of 3 to 5 years.
So it's more about getting back on track with a structured payment schedule
Right.
rather than wiping the slate completely clean.
Exactly. And one of the great things about Chapter 13 is it actually allows me to catch up on missed payments.
Oh, okay.
Like for your mortgage or your car payments. This can be like a lifesaver for people who are facing foreclosure or repossession.
So it's not just about addressing the existing debt.
Yeah,
It's about preventing further financial hardship down the road.
exactly. Getting ahead of it.
Yeah.
And Juracy really stresses that a well-crafted Chapter 13 plan can even help you reduce your overall debt.
Oh, wow.
You might be able to negotiate lower interest rates with your creditors.
That's incredible.
Yeah, that's really cool.
It really shows you that Chapter 13 can be such a powerful tool
It can be.
for regaining control of your finances.
For sure. And while Chapter 13 might seem like a less daunting option
Yeah.
than Chapter 7,
Okay.
Juracy does caution that it does require a significant commitment.
Okay, what do you mean?
You have to really stick to that repayment plan
Okay.
for the full 3 to 5 years.
So it's not like a quick fix.
Not a quick fix at all.
It's a long-term strategy.
It is. It is for
Okay.
financial recovery.
That makes sense.
Yeah, and that's why it's so important to have a solid plan in place
Right.
before you file for Chapter 13.
Okay.
You need to be sure that you can actually afford those payments.
Right. So again,
Yeah,
getting that expert advice from a qualified attorney
huge.
is essential.
It is.
I thought the section in the book on dealing with tax debt was really helpful.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
It can be such a complex area.
It is incredibly.
Intimidating, but he breaks it down
Yeah, he does.
in a way that's easy to understand.
He's really good at that.
Yeah.
Simplifying those things.
What are some of the key things to know about tackling tax debt?
So Juracy points out that certain tax liabilities
Okay.
can actually be discharged under Chapter 7,
Okay.
but others might be better addressed under Chapter 13. So it really depends on the specific type of tax debt that you have
Okay.
and your overall financial situation.
So there's no one-size-fits-all solution when it comes to tax debt.
Not at all.
Okay.
And this is another area where getting that professional balance can be so valuable.
Right.
An attorney who specializes in tax debt can really help you assess your options.
Right.
Develop a strategy
Yeah.
that minimizes your tax liability.
You know, one thing that really struck me while reading the book
Yeah.
was how Juracy emphasizes the importance of being proactive
Yes.
when it comes to your finances.
Love that.
Like he says, you don't have to wait until you are drowning in debt
Right.
to seek help.
Couldn't agree more.
It's so easy to kind of let those things pile up.
Oh, yeah.
And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God.
It's an avalanche.
Right.
Yeah,
I think we often feel ashamed or embarrassed
definitely.
to talk about money problems.
Oh, yeah. Huge stigma.
But the truth is, everyone faces financial challenges at some point.
Absolutely
It's
everyone.
just part of life.
Right. And the sooner you address those challenges,
Yeah,
the better equipped you are
absolutely.
to find solutions.
100%. And there are so many resources out there
Really.
that can help you, whether it's financial counseling, credit counseling,
Yeah.
or even just having
An open and honest conversation with a friend or an advisor,
Right.
someone you trust.
someone you can bounce ideas off of.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about taking that first step
Yeah.
and reaching out.
Reaching out for that support.
Yeah. And speaking of support,
Yeah.
Juracy Law has a really long history of helping people
They do.
navigate these financial difficulties.
They have a really incredible track record.
They do.
Over 900,000 people
That's amazing.
that they've helped find debt-free options.
It's pretty incredible, yeah. And their commitment to providing these compassionate and accessible legal services really shines through in the book.
Oh, that's wonderful.
It is, yeah.
So we've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah,
From the different chapters of bankruptcy to the complexities of tax debt.
definitely.
But I think one thing's clear. When it comes to knowing when to stop paying your creditors,
Yeah.
there's no easy answer.
No easy answer, no.
Right.
It's a really complex decision.
It is.
And it can have, significant consequences.
Which is why seeking professional guidance
Absolutely.
from a qualified attorney is absolutely essential.
Couldn't agree more. They can help you understand those options,
Yeah.
develop a strategy,
Right.
and ultimately, find a path to financial stability.
It sounds like Juracy Law, with their experience and their compassionate approach,
Yeah.
are a great resource for anyone who's facing those challenging conditions.
Absolutely they are. Juracy has built a remarkable firm,
Yeah.
really prioritizes helping people find the best solution for their unique circumstances. They really are. Yeah, Juracy's he's really built a remarkable firm.
Yeah.
That really puts people first.
Going back to the book, I was really struck by the section on the emotional toll of debt.
Yeah.
It's something we don't often talk about,
No, we don't.
but it's such a huge part of the equation.
Huge. Absolutely. Juracy, he doesn't shy away from that at all.
No, he doesn't.
He talks about how debt can really affect your relationship, your mental health.
Oh, yeah.
Your whole outlook on life.
And it can be so isolating.
Incredible.
People often suffer in silence because they're ashamed
Of course.
or embarrassed to admit that they're struggling.
And he really encourages people to reach out for help.
Does he?
And emphasizes that there's no shame in asking for support. In fact, it's a sign of strength.
I love that perspective.
Yeah.
It's so important to remember that you're not alone in this.
You're not. Absolutely not.
And that's something that Juracy Law really emphasizes, too.
Yeah.
They've created this culture of compassion,
Right.
understanding, recognizing that everybody's journey is different.
Everyone's different. Yeah, for sure.
Speaking of Juracy Law, I know that they offer a ton of free resources.
They do.
In addition to those free consultations.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So they have a wealth of information available on their website, infotapes.com.
Okay.
And there's a really great free non-bankruptcy credit counseling course that covers everything from, understanding the different types of debt to managing your credit score.
Sounds like a great resource for anybody who wants to get a better handle on their finances,
Totally.
even if they're not considering bankruptcy.
Even if they're not, yeah, it's all about empowering people with knowledge.
Yeah.
So that they can make informed decisions about their financial future.
It's like they're saying, we want to help you succeed whether you choose to work with us or not.
I think that speaks volumes about their commitment to helping people.
Yeah, it does.
For sure.
So we've talked a lot about the legal and financial aspects of dealing with debt.
Yeah.
But I am curious about the emotional side of things.
Yeah.
What advice does Juracy offer for coping with that stress and anxiety that often comes with financial struggles?
Oh, he actually dedicates a whole chapter to that.
Oh, wow.
It's called Emotional First Aid.
Oh, wow.
And he talks about the importance of self-care,
Okay.
reaching out to your support system,
Right.
and really focusing on the things that you can control.
It's so easy to get caught up in the overwhelm
It is.
and feel like you're just drowning.
Totally. And he really encourages people to shift their focus from what they've lost to what they can rebuild. It's about finding that little glimmer of hope amidst the challenges.
It's a really powerful message.
Yeah.
It reinforces this idea that bankruptcy is not the end.
No.
It can actually be a new beginning.
It can be. It's about taking a step back.
Yeah.
Reassessing your situation.
Right.
And finding that path toward a brighter future.
Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
I think so too.
And I really hope that our listeners are feeling more informed and empowered to tackle their own financial challenges.
Me too. It's been a really great conversation.
It has.
I'm really grateful for the opportunity to share some of these insights from Peter Francis Juracy's book.
Absolutely. And remember, everyone, if you are struggling with debt or considering bankruptcy, reaching out to a qualified attorney is the best way to get that personalized advice and guidance.
Couldn't agree more. And Juracy Law, with their commitment to compassion and accessibility,
Yes.
are a wonderful resource to explore. Don't hesitate to reach out to them for a free consultation or to learn more about all those free resources at infotapes.com.
It's great advice. Thanks for joining us on this journey through the world of personal finance, and we will see you next time for another insightful exploration.